You know about the meteor freaks, the red kryptonite, and the blur? But what if I told you Smallville was dropping hints about the Justice League, Brainiac, and even Superman's cape all the way back in Season 1? That's right. From sneaky name drops to comic book callbacks hidden in plain sight, here are the top Easter eggs you probably missed in Smallville Seasons 1 through 5. And trust me, they've been right in front of you this whole time. Let's rewind for a second. Before the Arrowverse, before Man of Steel, before even Batman Begins, there was Smallville. And while it may look like just another early 2000s teen drama on the surface, this show had a secret mission: to tell the Superman origin story without ever mentioning the word Superman. Sounds insane, right? But there's a reason. Back then, Warner Brothers and DC had one very strict rule: no tights, no flights. That's right, Clark Kent couldn't fly, and he definitely couldn't wear the cape. Why? Because the movie division was terrified of anything that might interfere with future Superman films. So the writers had to get clever, really clever. Instead of showing Clark's transformation into Superman, with flashy suits and epic declarations, Smallville leaned into something else: subtext. The showrunners built an entire mythos beneath the surface. They used Easter eggs, comic references, character names, and symbolic moments to slowly reveal Clark's destiny. And if you were paying attention, you could see it all unfolding, even when Clark couldn't. Here's the genius of it all. Every limitation became an opportunity for creativity. Couldn't say Justice League? Cool. Let's tease it through recurring themes of teamwork and responsibility. Couldn't call Clark Superman? No problem. Let's build up the idea of the man he's going to become through people like Chloe, Lionel, and Lex. And when they really wanted to have fun, they brought in legendary actors like Christopher Reeve, Margot Kidder, and Dean Cain, not just for nostalgia, but to pass the torch. It wasn't just fan service, it was a coded message. You're watching something bigger than you realize. By hiding so much in plain sight, Smallville created a layered experience. First-time viewers could enjoy the drama, but longtime DC fans, they were picking up on clues that connected to Superman's future and the wider DC universe. And over time, that subtle world building paid off. Characters like Green Arrow, Aquaman, and Cyborg didn't just pop up for cameos, they arrived with purpose, teased well in advance through background details, episode titles, and character arcs. That's how Smallville laid the groundwork for a connected superhero universe long before it was trendy. So yeah, Smallville didn't just tell Superman's story. It disguised it in the form of a coming-of-age tale, one Easter egg at a time. And now, it's time to start uncovering them. Season 1 of Smallville might look like just a fun, freak-of-the-week teen drama, but comic book fans knew something deeper was brewing. The writers laced the first season with symbolic nods, clever DC references, and foreshadowing that would pay off years later. Let's start with Lex Luthor's white suit in the pilot episode. It wasn't just a style choice, it was a direct nod to Superman. The animated series, where Lex wore white to reflect power, wealth, and moral ambiguity. This outfit subtly framed Lex as a future villain in plain sight, dressed clean, but hiding danger. Then there's Chloe's Wall of Weird. What looked like a conspiracy collage was actually early foreshadowing of her future role as Watchtower. Her hunger for the truth and investigative skills mirrored Lois Lane and hinted at the kind of allies Superman would one day depend on. Don't sleep on Whitney Fordman's name either. It's a deep pull from DC's 1940s comic lore. Fordman Motors, used in satire to mock corrupt corporations. Giving that name to Lana's boyfriend, a guy Clark could never fully trust, was symbolic of fading Americana and Clark's departure from the normal life he could never have. And of course, there's the meteor rock concept, a genius twist on kryptonite. It wasn't just a plot device, it was a metaphor. Each villain of the week Clark faced showed a path he could take if his powers were used for selfishness or vengeance. Even Smallville High itself was an Easter egg in disguise. The red, yellow, and blue color palette, A subtle echo of Superman's suit. The rural town vibe? It's the values incubator that will one day shape the Man of Steel. Season 1 wasn't just about origin stories. It was the beginning of a slow-burn mythology, but one that turned casual viewers into lifelong fans, and a teenager with a secret into a symbol of hope.
All my life I've been staring out into space, wondering is anybody else out there? And then 13 years ago I got an answer.
Day of the meteor shower.
Season 2 was when Smallville stopped playing it safe and started layering its mythology, quietly transforming from a teen drama into a love letter to Superman fans. The Easter eggs weren't just surface level anymore. They were loaded with emotional weight, metacasting, and long-term storytelling. Let's talk about the biggest one, Dr. Virgil Swan, played by Christopher Reeve. This was more than just a cameo. Reeve was Superman for an entire generation, and his scenes with Clark felt like a symbolic torch passing. When he handed over that Kryptonian data, it wasn't just a plot device. It was a nod from Superman past to Superman future. Then you've got the first whispers of the Veritas Society. Lionel Luthor drops vague lines about powerful families and secret histories. At the time, it seemed like typical Luthor posturing, but it laid the groundwork for Season 7's entire Kryptonian conspiracy arc. That's the beauty of Smallville. You never know when a line will come back seasons later with massive consequences. Another quiet but brilliant moment? A blurred Daily Planet masthead appears in Chloe's newspaper stack. It's the show's first visual hint that Metropolis is coming, that the world outside Smallville is waiting, and that Clark's destiny isn't limited to this town. The Kryptonian symbols also start showing up, carved into caves, glowing in visions. At this point, viewers couldn't translate them, but they could sense the mystery. And longtime fans, they knew Zod was coming before anyone ever said his name. Even Chloe's early Watchtower behavior, like tracking anomalies and creating files on meteor freaks, takes shape here. Season 2 wasn't about flashy reveals. It was about building the spine of the Superman legend, quietly, deliberately, and always with a wink to the audience that something bigger was coming. Season 3 took Smallville into darker, more introspective territory, and the Easter eggs followed suit. Now, it wasn't just about planting seeds. It was about exploring the duality of Clark's journey. And Lex's. Let's start with Red Kryptonite Clark. This wasn't just a fun twist, it was a deliberate nod to Superman 3 and the darker, evil Superman trope. But instead of going full camp, Smallville used Red K to show how dangerous Clark could be without his moral compass. These episodes acted like emotional cautionary tales. What happens when power's unmoored from responsibility? Then there's Chloe's alias, Watchtower. It's not official yet, but her actions in Season 3 are early indicators. She's already acting like the digital eyes and ears of the group, compiling data, tracking threats, helping Clark remotely. They never call her Watchtower in name, but in practice, she's already becoming the hub of the future Justice League. One of the most overlooked Easter eggs? Lex's obsession with Warrior Angel. It seems like just a throwaway comic within the show, but Warrior Angel is actually Lex's mirror. The hero of the comic has immense power and walks the line between good and evil, torn by fate and free will. It's Lex's inner monologue in comic book form, and a genius way to foreshadow his descent without a single speech. There's also Clark's vision of the future in the episode Hereafter. He sees himself standing in the middle of Metropolis, saving people and wearing a long red cape. It's one of the first moments the show visualizes his Superman destiny. Not with words, but with hope. And let's not forget Lionel Luthor, who becomes a full-fledged puppet master, here testing Clark, manipulating Lex, and quoting Nietzsche like a DC villain in disguise. He's not just a businessman anymore. He's a mythic antagonist. Season 3 was all about tension between identity and destiny, between good intentions and dark outcomes. The Easter eggs weren't just winks to the comics. They were full-on psychological breadcrumbs in Clark's and Lex's transformation stories.
if you're still in there. I love you.
Season 4 is when Smallville said, "Enough warm-ups, let's go full Kryptonian." Suddenly, the show isn't just teasing the Superman legacy, it's neck-deep in it. The Easter eggs in Season 4 aren't subtle, they're game-changers. The biggest? Lois Lane's arrival. Introduced in a blaze of sarcasm, sass, and instant chemistry, she hits Clark with, "Nice to meet you, Smallville." That line? A meta-introduction to the most iconic romantic pairing in DC Comics. She's not just a guest star, she's the future. Then we've got the Stones of Power. These ancient artifacts are straight out of the Silver Age of Superman comics, reimagined here as a global scavenger hunt that leads Clark to the Fortress of Solitude. These stones aren't just plot devices. They're physical symbols of Clark's growing responsibility. Each one pushes him further away from Kansas farm boy and closer to Kryptonian legacy. And remember Jason Teague, played by Jensen Ackles? On the surface, he's Lana's love interest, but his backstory, linked to ancient witches, secret bloodlines, and prophecy, mirrors the kind of mystical, hidden history arcs you'd find in deep DC lore, especially the Dark Circle mythos. Let's not forget Lex's deepening obsession with Warrior Angel. In Season 4, it gets darker. Lex stops reading the comic for entertainment, he starts projecting. Warrior Angel becomes a self-justification tool, echoing Lex's belief that doing bad things for the greater good is noble, even heroic. Also, Chloe dies and comes back. Classic comic book move. And her knowledge of Clark's powers? Another breadcrumb toward her full transformation into Watchtower. Season 4 is where Smallville sheds its high school skin. The storylines stretch beyond Smallville, Kansas, and start brushing up against global stakes, Kryptonian legends, and comic book canon. It's no longer a question of if Clark becomes Superman, but when.
A price a lot steeper than $6 million. Last thing I want to do is cause you more pain.
Then why not just take back all your fancy gadgetry?
By Season 5, Smallville fully embraces its destiny. The superhero gloves are off, the Fortress of Solitude is online, and the show is ready to start drawing direct lines to Superman's future. The Easter eggs this season. They're bold, deliberate, and absolutely loaded. Let's start with Professor Milton Fine, aka Brainiac. From the moment James Marsters steps on screen, comic fans knew. But even if you didn't, the writers left breadcrumbs. Fine talks about evolving intelligence, binary beings, and perfect logic. It's Brainiac's philosophy hidden in plain sight. And then there's Zod. Yes, we don't see him yet, but the signs are everywhere. In the episode Arrival, Kryptonian symbols flash in the fortress, and one of them, it's the crest of the House of Zod. Blink and you miss it, but undeniable for those fluent in the Kryptonian cipher the show created. He's coming, and the show wants you to know. Also, Lex's final descent into darkness begins now. The writers deliberately frame Lex's possession by Zod in the Season 5 finale, in the same composition as the cover of Action Comics number 545, where Lex and Brainiac team up in the comics. It's a visual homage only hardcore fans would recognize, but it signals Lex's full transformation from conflicted friend to full-blown threat. Meanwhile, Clark's moral compass is tested harder than ever. His choices begin affecting the world, not just his inner circle, and the writers underscore that with Chloe's evolution. She now works at the Daily Planet, hinting at Lois's future legacy, but also showing us the world is expanding beyond Smallville. And speaking of Lois, her investigative instincts start aligning with the real Lois Lane. No longer just comic relief, she's on the trajectory toward the greatest reporter in DC Comics. Season 5 marks the official shift from origin story to Superman prequel. The Easter eggs don't just honor comic fans anymore, they guide the story. It's no longer about hints and winks, it's about payoff. From hidden symbols to epic foreshadowing, the first 5 seasons were packed with genius details. Did we miss your favorite Easter egg? Drop it in the comments. Hit like if this brought back memories. And don't forget to subscribe for part 2, where we cover seasons 6 to 10 and the birth of the Justice League. Thanks for watching.